Hello, my beautiful SAT geniuses here. It's a great day for doing some SAT. It's stormy outside. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, that's what it is. So let's take a look at some awesome questions here. And again, we're looking at linear test one from the College Board website, specifically questions 8 and 9 from module 1. And these are craft and structure questions. Specifically, the skill is text, structure, and purpose. So we look at purpose. Really, the SAT kind of confuses purpose with function for this, but that's okay. So you'll see that all of these questions will have something like which choice best describes the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole, and you'll see part of the sentence underlined. So let's dig in and take a look at this. Now, I want to see if we can do this with as little work as possible. So I am going to skip the blurb for right now. Okay. And I'm just going to look at the part that is underlined and read and see what we got. The landscape outspread below her seemed an enlargement of her present mood. Okay, already we got two parts to this. We've got this landscape and we've got her mood. So outspread below her, the landscape basically spread out below her seems like her mood, like the landscape is part of her mood. And she found something of herself in its calmness, its breath, its long free reaches. Okay, nice sentence there. A, it creates a detailed image of the physical setting of the scene. Well, it describes the scene a little bit, but it describes it in words like its calmness, its breath, its long free reaches. So that's not a detailed image of the physical setting at all. So A is out. It establishes, look at B, it establishes that a character is experiencing an internal conflict. Don't see anything about an internal conflict. It just says, just mentions her mood, basically. And her calmness, or its calmness as a reflection of her mood. It doesn't sound like there's an internal conflict going on. There could be one, but it doesn't, that's not the function of this particular sentence. C, it makes an assertion that the next sentence then expands on. Oh man, now we got to read the next sentence. Okay, couldn't get away with it without doing that. So here we are. Now, what is the assertion that's being made? Well, the assertion, if there is one, would be that the landscape outspread below her seemed an enlargement of her present mood. Okay, so there's going to have to be some expansion about her mood and about the landscape and how they relate together. So let's see if that happens. On the nearer slopes, the sugar maples wavered like pyres of light. Okay, now we get a little bit more of a detailed description of the landscape, but nothing about her mood. Lower down was a massing of gray orchards, and here and there the lingering green of an oak grove. Okay, so we've got physical setting here, but nothing about her mood. So notice how A could actually be the answer if we were talking about this last sentence. And that's how the SAT tries to trick you, okay? It wants you to read the whole thing and then look at the answer choices and be confused and choose the wrong answer. So I'm focusing on just what we need to read to answer the question. So A, B, and C are out. D must be the right answer. If I'm in a hurry, I'm going to put D. I'm not in a hurry right now, so let's take a look at what D says. It illustrates an idea that is introduced in the previous sentence. Oh man, we got to read the previous sentence. Okay, fine. Lily had no real intimacy with nature, but she had a keen passion for the appropriate and could be keenly sensitive to a scene which was the fitting background of her own sensations. A scene which was a fitting background. Okay, fitting background, that would be the landscape of her own sensations. That would be her mood. So yes, this sentence seems to illustrate what is being talked about in this first sentence a little better. So D, absolutely the right answer. Okay. Now let's take a look at number 9. Using data spanning from 1994 to 2010 for a set of US companies, using data. The team, okay, so the team is using this data. What did the team do? They compared over 29,000 annual earnings forecasts to what? To the actual earnings later reported by these companies. Okay, so they grabbed data from about a 17-year period and compared the forecast to the actual earnings of companies. Okay, again, that's all I want to read. And this question is written a little differently. Which choice best states the function of the underlined sentence in the overall structure of the text? Means the same thing as the previous. Okay, the previous said, which choice best describes the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole? Same thing, same question. So let's see. To summarize, to summarize the results of the team's analysis. No, it doesn't really talk about the results at all. So we don't have the analysis here. It may be in the next sentence, but it's certainly not in this sentence. B, to present a specific example that illustrates the study's findings. Nope, not at all. It doesn't show us an example. It just tells us what they did to get the results. C, to explain part of the methodology, used in the team study. So what did they do? They used data from 1994 to 2010, and they compared the forecast to the actual results. So that is certainly methodology there. If you don't know what that word means, you better, because it's going to come up on the SAT in these kinds of questions. It might even come up in other kinds of questions too, but I see that word a lot on the SAT. So it's looking at the methods that are used. So C is clearly our answer, unless D has something incredible to say. I don't think it does. Even so, C has to be the answer. It's not going to be displaced by another answer, but let's just check it out anyway. To call out a challenge the team faced in conducting its analysis. Doesn't talk about a challenge. It has a big number here, 29,000 annual earning forecasts. I don't know if that's a lot to go through or not. Depends on what kind of computers they had. It depends on how they gather that information. So there's no challenge as far as I can see here. I mean, it doesn't say there's a challenge or that's a challenging thing to do. So C is our answer for 9. Okay, so there are no more of these types of questions on either this module or the second module. So let's take a look at, from the SAT Word Bank, College Board Word Bank, one more question just like this one. Okay, here we go. And you see that this is rated 3 in terms of level of difficulty. So this is about as hard as you're going to get. How lifelike are they? Which choice best describes the function of the underlined question in the text as a whole? Okay, so what usually happens with these harder questions is that you do have to read more. You do have to figure out what's going on here. How lifelike are they? Okay, let's keep going. Many computer animators prioritize this question as they strive to create even more realistic environments and lighting. They prioritize this question. Okay. So this demonstrates, what's the function of this? Then it demonstrates what computer animators are most likely interested in this, when they're striving to create more realistic environments and lighting. So let's look at the answer choices, see if that's enough. We may have to read more, but let's see. A, it reflects a primary goal. Okay, that looks good. That many computer animators have, okay, so far so good, for certain components of the animations they produce. What do we mean by certain components of the animations they produce? As they strive to create even more realistic environments and lighting. Environments and lighting, those could be considered the components. I like A. Sounding good to me. Let's look at B. It represents a concern of computer animators who are more interested in creating unique backgrounds and lighting effects than realistic ones. It doesn't say that here. It may say that later on, but A is looking pretty good here. It conveys C. It conveys the uncertainty among many computer animators about how to create realistic animations using current technology. It conveys the uncertainty. Well, here it's saying it's prioritizing the question, not conveying an uncertainty. So C is out. D, it illustrates a reaction that audiences typically have. Okay, well, it's not talking about audiences here, it's talking about computer animators. So A is our best answer here. We did have to read a little bit further than this, but not very much. So you can see how these questions are really pretty straightforward. And if you just stick to the underlined part and whatever the answer choices say, you need what more the answer choices say you need to read. Okay. I needed to read a little bit more in this particular case just to know what we were talking about. How lifelike are they? Are what? What is the they that we're talking about here? So yeah, you got to read a little bit more in this one. That should be obvious. But again, we don't need to read the whole thing to come up with answer A as our answer. Okay, so that's it for this time. We'll see you next time.